This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Michael Showalter. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. We have so much to talk about today. I don't even know where the best place is to start. There's too much stuff you're doing on TV right now, which is great.
I know. Yeah, I'm trying to stay busy.
Awesome. Well, I was trying to think when I looked at the three shows that you worked on this Emmy season, the connective thread I found was that they're all about people who lie to a degree or a very high degree, but there's at least something interesting about them, if not good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm drawn to, in a sort of like, can't look away kind of thing of people who, have like the gall to, lie, and to see them kind of get you. There's that part, half of you is sort of wishes that I could be that, part of me wishes that I could be that cavalier, because, then maybe I could have a $9 billion company or whatever. But then there's another part of you that feels like I want there to be some kind of karma, some kind of karmic justice for people who lie to get what they want, and that for people who actually telling the truth has value still, that there's some small reward for that.
Yeah. Well, let's start with The Shrink Next Door, since that's, chronologically when these came out. That one to me is so fascinating. I don't know, that one isn't as much about lying as it is gaslighting and really just sort of changing someone's entire worldview.
Yeah.
There are definitely comedic elements, but to me that one, how did you want to make sure to balance the tone on that show so that it wasn't either too light or too dark?
Well, I mean, I think, in all of these cases, it's, it's interesting coming in and being more sort of the directing these scripts. So in a sense, I'm not writing these scripts. So I don't have as much global control as I do on some other things. I like to think that I'm having input and all of that. But I think with The Shrink Next Door, there was a desire to sympathize with these characters and to get to know these characters, and not to we didn't want it to just be What About Bob, which it could easily have been. I think that's what that movie's called. What About Bob? Isn't that called What About Bob? Or like, Where's Bob? Or Who's Bob? Who's Bob? Okay. What About Bob? Okay. Where, it's just sort of in reverse though, where the shrink is Bob. But so we wanted to give these characters space to be human beings and everything. But yeah, I mean, Ike, the Paul Rudd character, and you said, gaslighting. It is lying in a way. I mean, it's people who for whom the truth is something that the truth is whatever you say the truth is. Like, that's sort of the weird, like, reality of some of these characters. And that's definitely seems to be the case for Ike. And I think I know an Ike. I have an Ike in my life. I think a lot of people have an Ike in their life, and it's sort of like the truth is this thing to be manipulated, and dissected, that you can kind of like bite off pieces of the truth and twist them in a way to get something. And I think there's something kind of like, it's a monster movie without there being like a weird pterodactyl. It's like there's an actual monster who's and it's about the way that they use emotion and intimacy to manipulate. And I don't even know that they know they're doing it. I don't know that they even realize that that's what they're doing. And that's part of it too.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue to The Dropout, because from everything I've read about Elizabeth Holmes and just the way that she's portrayed in the show, the idea is that she did all of this because she believed that she wasn't lying, that this would all be possible someday. And she just wasn't, she thought this was the way to get there, was to act like you can do it and then you can get there. And I think, I don't know if you, again, how you wanted to make sure to showcase her. Is she I don't think she's the hero of the story, certainly, but is she the villain? I'm not so sure.
Well, there's a really fascinating moment in, I believe, the documentary about Elizabeth Holmes, where some person is talking about this idea of, I'm going to get it wrong, and I know we're limited for time, so I won't try too hard to get it exactly right, but basically that it's an experiment, a psychological experiment, which is essentially like, you roll a die, and it's like, basically like, if I tell you that if you see the number 6 or something, I'll give $100 to your favorite charity. You'll lie and tell me that you saw the number 6 at a way higher rate than if I tell you, if you see the number 6 and I'll give you $100, you will lie less. You will feel, and I'm getting this all wrong, and I'm sure there's listeners that are going to immediately go correct it. But basically the idea is like, you won't feel guilty about lying if you think that $100 is going to charity. So lying is very relative. Lying is one thing. Feeling bad about lying changes based on what you think the lie was in service of. And so I think Elizabeth Holmes is a really great case study for that, because she knew she was lying. She knew she was but she thought she was lying in service of a greater good. And so it made the lie okay. Like, it's okay if I'm misleading these people, because one day it'll all work out. And I think she just took that basic kind of idea, or that basic, whatever you want to call it, thought puzzle, and she just ran with it so far, and was able to run with it so far to this place that I think most of us could never imagine taking on that much weight. That the how do you go to sleep every night with that much baggage, with that much sort of wreckage going on, and it's some high level of, because one day I will save the world and this will all be worth it.
Yeah. And then we have, I love that for you, which is basically lying in service of something much more selfish, but also with not the same stakes, not, people's medical report, all this kind of thing, but with a very clear payoff, which I think we can all relate to. The idea that one simple little lie can sometimes get people to treat you so radically differently. And that's so interesting to see in that show. Yeah.
And it's a deal with the devil, essentially, which is she's about to lose the one thing she wants most in the world, which is to be a host on this home shopping network. And she's going to lose that opportunity, but she knows that if she says this one thing, she could get it all back. And so she does. She says she has cancer when she doesn't, knowing that no one would fire her if they knew she had cancer. And of course, in this way, that's very similar to kind of what we see happening in the movie Tootsie. It gets her in all sorts of trouble because the lie keeps getting bigger and bigger, and and it sort of takes on a life of its own. I am very fascinated by all of the sort of challenge, all of the kind of internal challenges for characters that come with taking on those kinds of that come with sort of like the difficulty of sort of living your life when all of those, when you're misrepresenting yourself in so many ways, and how it fractures you, and it fractures your relationships, and it causes you to have to make a, the which lie did I tell thing, that you have to lie to cover up the other lie, and that kind of thing. And it's a pretty, it's a sort of a fun puzzle to try to get into.
And I think even though that one is not based on real events in the same way, I think that it may be the most uncomfortable one to watch. But fortunately, Vanessa Bayer is just so terrific, and I'm so thrilled to see her.
Uncomfortable is like her bread and butter. I think that she wants us to be uncomfortable. The cringiness of it is also. I mean, that's another thing. It's sort of the cringy thing is something that I also really love. It's like just, oh God, it's like, I can't even, you just want to like hide. And Liz Holmes is so cringy, and there's something funny about it. There's something funny about their cringiness. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've also worked on shows like Search Party and Wet Hot American Summer, and it's interesting just to see. I know that if I looked harder, there'd be more to connect with those two, but it's your exploration of characters and the projects you choose is always very interesting to me. So I'm just.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think like Wet Hot I'd have to think how Wet Hot fits in, because there's a sort of a different sort of thing there that I'm probably like a different itch that I'm scratching on that one. But with Search Party, I think there is a similar thing there, which is just sort of about authenticity. Like, I think that's another sort of thing that's a theme in these shows, is a sort of a quest for authenticity, and what does it mean to be authentic, and how do you achieve that? And in this culture, in this sort of like internet reality that we live in now, where so much of our selves so much of who we are is now being defined vis-a-vis the internet and social media and all and what have you, is the way in which we are a lot of these characters are in a quest for an authentic self. And we're sort of watching that quest, and we're watching that people sort of like attempting to find their authentic selves, and contending with like, all these other people where we didn't used to have to also look at what your authentic life looked like too. That's a really big thing, is this sort of like that in your free time, you're like looking at all your friends and your friends pictures of their vacation that they took. It's just really changing the way we are as people.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as I understand, your next project, spoiler alert, is something that doesn't focus on liars and all that, but is something different. Can you preview that a little bit for us?
It's called Spoiler: The Hero Dies. Focus features, coming out in the fall. Stars Jim Parsons and Sally Field and a relative newcomer named Ben Aldridge. A love story, essentially, with a sad twist. I think it's comparable to The Big Sick. Probably would be a project of mine that I think where you could find some real comparisons. It's a very, and I think there is in this, what I love about it is this really are authentic characters. These really are real people dealing with real problems in a real way, with such courage and honesty. It's almost like these are the honest ones. It's sort of like, if you had one bucket of projects that I'm working on about people that are lying, this is one about people who are telling the truth. And that's very much spoiler alert. These are people that are dealing with a very difficult life circumstances, but taking it in with such grace and humor and that kind of a thing. We're really excited about it.
No, it sounds great. And it's nice to go through and just unpack a lot of these things from your resume. So thank you for taking some time to speak with me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abe. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Very nice to meet you.
You too, man. Take care.